The night she left, the city sounded like a countdown, neon blurring into rain, horns folding into the distance, and my heart ticking louder than the clock on the wall. She didn't slam the door. She closed it like someone reading the last line of a book she'd already decided to burn. "I won't be your tomorrow's trophy," she said, and the words landed like a verdict. That was the line I replayed for months, not because it was cruel, but because it was honest. She never accused me of not loving her. She accused me of believing love could pay a landlord. She wanted presence wrapped in certainty, not a life sold to almost and soon. We met when I was still washing dishes for a startup that smelled permanently of coffee and bus fumes. I had a briefcase of ideas and a head full of stubborn belief. She had a laugh that ruined my rhythm and a kindness that made me think, for the first time, of staying. She'd lean over my shoulder in that cramped office, eyes bright, and say things like, "We'll get there." I believed her more than I believed myself. For a long time, nothing else mattered. We ate cheap meals and made grand plans. When the rent notice arrived, she'd press her hand to my cheek and joke it away. When my phone buzzed with agency rejections and investors who dressed failure in softer language, she stayed. She taught me the art of calm when your life is burning. But pride has a price. For every "we'll make it," there came a week of silence where the landlord's threats seeped through the walls. For every application and pitch, there were dinners missed and hopes rationed. I thought my hunger was romantic. She thought it was naive. The moment her patience reached the limit, she didn't raise her voice. She rehearsed a goodbye that sounded like mercy. That night she left, she wore the dress she knew emptied rooms and filled phone notifications. Red, confident, a shape I knew my hands had loved. I thought she'd storm, beg, slam something. Instead, she lit a cigarette on the balcony and watched the rain. She smelled like jasmine and a small, bitter courage. "I won't be your tomorrow's trophy," she repeated when I tried to stop her, her voice even. "I can't be the woman you collect once you've won. I want the life you promise now, or I want nothing." There's a particular kind of silence after a sentence like that, the one where the world makes room to hear the echo. I wanted to argue, to promise, to twist the grammar until it meant us again. But the words were exact. They fit her like an apology. When she walked away, the echo of her heels on the stairs sounded like a sentence being closed. For months, I lived like a stopped clock. The city went on. Lights, deals, men who pretended not to have been poor. While I sat with the dent of her absence. Lovers of ambition will tell you, struggle breeds character. The truth is, it sharpens your appetite for revenge, dressed as success. I began to learn how to put my hunger into work, how to let setbacks be the anvil that hammered me into something else. The project that saved me started like all good revenge stories do. Accidentally. A late-night call from a friend, a demo I'd thrown together on a whim, an investor who liked the way I refused to look small. I slept on floors again, but this time my sweat smelled like potential. Sleepless nights stacked into months, months folded into a year. And the world, the same world that once ignored me, began to take note. Contracts, a modest office, a car with a door that closed with authority. People said I was lucky. Luck is a story we tell when we don't want to hear the grind behind the claim. And yet the memory of her leaving clung like perfume. Money bought silence, not sleep. The penthouse windows showed the city like a map of everything I'd lost and might one day rebuild. I learned to answer the polite, curious looks with a smile that said, "I am whole now." Inside, a thin, threadbare part of me still listened for her heels. Then, months after the rain, under a chandelier that made everything look possible, I saw her. She was across the room like a wound disguised in silk, composed, calm, the woman who'd chosen motion over waiting. People moved around her like tide around a moon. Her hair fell the way it used to when she wasn't trying. Her laugh hit the same place in me that all the investment winds couldn't reach. She saw me. The smile she gave was gentle, practiced. It fit the woman at full brightness. Successful, polished, unreachable. When we finally spoke, words sat between us like currency being exchanged. "I heard congratulations are in order," she said, glass held steady, voice like a velvet ledger. "I did what I had to," I answered, and it sounded small next to the space she occupied now. There was heat in the room, soft jazz, the hum of conversation. But our conversation felt private, dangerous, like two people testing whether a bridge could still hold weight. We talked about little things, the industry, mutual acquaintances, weather that made the city look like melted gold. But under the surface, every sentence was a probe. Each question combed for old wounds. When she reached for my hand, a casual, accidental brush, I felt, stupidly, the old gravity pull. The room tilted. For a breath, I wanted her to fold back into me, to let the past be the land we rebuilt on. Instead, she drew back, eyes diplomatic, held a smile that read, "I did what I had to." Later, half turned away, she said softly, "People change, sometimes for the right reasons." And when she walked off into that warm, indifferent crowd, I realized I didn't want her back as much as I wanted to know if she'd ever wanted me at all, or only the version of me that could buy her Tuesdays and keep promises in gold. That night, the city kept going. Neon and rain made the streets shine like a trail of favors and debts. I sat at my window, empty glass sweating on the sill, and watched the place where she'd stood fade into the crowd. I had everything, a rare kind of success that tastes of iron and nights without rest, and yet there was an ache that money couldn't file away. The truth I didn't want to admit until later was this. I had built my life on the idea of getting her back. Not to punish her, but to prove to myself that who I was hadn't been defined by her leaving. Standing there, listening to the rain, I understood how complicated pride could be. Success felt good until it answered the wrong questions. I lit a cigarette because old habits die slower than you think, and watched the smoke curl into a sky that didn't care how broken I'd been. She had chosen certainty over the unmade promise of us. Maybe I would have done the same if the roles were reversed. Maybe that's what forgiveness will look like when it comes. An honest inventory of what we both sacrificed for survival. For now, the story of us was a closed chapter with a marginal note. I left, you left, we both survived. But scars have memory, and the city never forgets a face it once loved. Success has a strange silence to it. When the applause fades and the noise of ambition dies down, all you hear is your own breathing and the sound of doors opening that were once locked. It was one of those quiet nights. My apartment sat above the city, glass walls holding back a world of noise and light. Down below, headlights streamed like veins of gold through wet streets. I'd grown used to the hum of solitude. The stillness that comes after everyone you wanted to prove wrong has already watched you win. That's when my phone buzzed, her name. After almost 2 years of absence, she was suddenly on my screen again. Like a ghost testing the locks on a door she once owned. "I heard your company just closed a big deal. Congratulations." "Thanks," I typed back. "Can we talk?" I stared at those 3 words until the room itself seemed to hold its breath. Part of me wanted to ignore her. Another part, the one that still remembered the scent of her hair against my neck, wanted to hear her voice, to see if it trembled this time. I didn't reply, but 3 days later she showed up. It was late evening. I'd just returned from a dinner meeting. My jacket still smelled of whiskey and boardroom confidence when the elevator doors opened, and there she was, standing in the hallway like the past had been waiting all along. Same eyes, same calm danger in her poise. But time had done something cruel. It had made her even more stunning, like she'd learned how to weaponize regret. She smiled slowly. "You don't answer texts anymore, huh?" "Some ghosts look better unread," I said. She laughed, soft, familiar, disarming. "Can I come in?" Every instinct told me no, but success makes men reckless. You start believing you can control chaos because you once conquered hunger. So I opened the door. The scent of her perfume, that subtle jasmine she used to wear, filled the space instantly. My apartment had never felt smaller. She walked around, fingers trailing over the furniture, eyes gliding across the skyline. "You did well for yourself," she said. "You always said you would." I poured her a drink, mostly to buy time, partly to keep my hands busy. She took the glass, her nails tapping lightly against it. "Why are you here, really?" "Tene," I asked. She exhaled slowly, eyes glistening just enough to blur truth and performance. "I just wanted to see you, to say I'm proud, to see what I missed." The honesty in her tone was too precise. the kind that sounds rehearsed. She sat on the couch, crossing her legs. "You look different," she said. "How so?" "Like a man who stopped begging." The words hit harder than I wanted to admit. I sat across from her, the city glowing behind her like a witness. She sipped her drink, eyes never leaving mine. There was a pause, not awkward, but electric. A silence that had memory. "I was scared," she finally said. "Back then. You were dreaming too big for two people living off borrowed hope. I didn't want to watch you break." I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "So you left before I did?" She looked down. "I left because I didn't know how to stay." Her vulnerability disarmed me. For a moment, I wasn't the man who'd built empires out of spite. I was just the man who once watched her walk away under the rain. She reached out, her hand brushing mine. A ghost of the same touch that used to calm me when I thought I'd never make it. Time slowed. The air thickened. "You're shaking," she whispered. "So are you." That's the thing about people who share history. The body remembers what pride tries to forget. When her lips met mine, it wasn't forgiveness. It was recognition. The kind that tastes like old sin and new temptation. It didn't take long before her coat fell to the floor, pooling like surrender. The city lights caught her skin, painting gold across every curve I had once memorized. My mind screamed to stop, but the part of me that still needed to prove something wanted her to want me now, not for love, but for loss. The room turned into a memory on repeat. Whispers, half-lies, the sharp sound of breathing and need. She clung to me like the past was collapsing. When it was over, she lay beside me, tracing lines across my chest. "You've changed," she murmured. "So have you," I said. She smiled faintly. "No, I just learned how to survive." The way she said it, calm, detached, made me realize something I didn't want to face. She wasn't back for me. She was back for what I had become. The truth lingered in the silence between us, heavy and unspoken. I watched her fall asleep under my sheets, her back turned, the same way she'd left before. Only this time, she wasn't escaping. She was calculating. When I woke up, she was gone. Again, no note, no message. Just a half-finished glass of wine on the table and the faint trace of her perfume drifting through the morning light. But this time, it didn't hurt, because as the sun rose, a message lit up my phone from one of my business partners. "You won't believe who applied for a PR position here. Thought you'd want to know." Her name. I stared at it for a long time, a slow smile forming. The game had just begun. When people talk about revenge, they picture fire. Wild, loud, consuming. But mine came quiet, cold, slow, like rain that seeps into the cracks of a house until one morning the walls just give in. 2 weeks passed after she vanished from my bed. Then one morning I walked into the boardroom of my own company, and there she was, sitting across the table, notebook in hand, pretending not to notice me. She'd gotten the job. I almost laughed. Life, it seemed, had a sense of humor. She looked flawless, a crisp white blouse, subtle perfume, lips painted the color of secrets. But when our eyes met, something shifted. Not surprise, not shame, something more dangerous. Control. I sat at the head of the table, my voice calm, my expression unreadable. "Welcome to Arca PR," I said. "We value loyalty here." She smiled, small, deliberate. "I've learned the value of that." The meeting went on, but my focus never left her. Every word she said was measured, every glance calculated. The others didn't see it, but beneath the professionalism, a storm brewed, one that only she and I could feel. After the meeting, she lingered by the window, city lights bouncing off her earrings. "You knew I applied," she said. "Maybe. Why didn't you stop it?" "Because I wanted to see what game you were playing." She stepped closer, the faint scent of her perfume flooding back memories I tried to bury. "Maybe I just missed you," she whispered. I looked at her, really looked. She wasn't the same woman who'd left me in the rain. This one had learned how to survive on charm and silence. And yet, she still had the power to make my pulse stutter. We ended up back in my office after everyone left. The air was heavy with that old tension, desire tangled with mistrust. She stood by my desk, tracing her finger along the edge. then looking up at me with that same reckless curiosity. "You never moved on, did you?" she said softly. "Maybe I just moved differently," I replied. She laughed quietly, the sound low and dangerous. "You always hide behind words. And you always hide behind people." That broke something open. The argument that followed wasn't about work. It was years of silence exploding. Accusations, half-truths, and the sound of two people who knew each other too well to pretend. And when she kissed me again, it wasn't love. It was defiance. I don't remember how it started. Only the taste of red wine between us, the sting of her nails against my neck, the heat of revenge masquerading as passion. It was brutal, desperate, wrong, and yet familiar. When it was over, she lay on the couch, eyes staring at the ceiling. "Does it make you feel better?" she asked. "No," I said. "It makes me feel alive." She turned to me slowly, her voice sharp now. "You think I came back for your money?" I said nothing. Silence, I'd learned, was the loudest answer. Her laugh was bitter. "You really think you're the only one who changed? You built your empire on proving me wrong. But look at you. You still need me to feel powerful." That cut deep, because she was right. Somewhere between success and survival, I'd built everything just to make her regret leaving. And now that she was here, inside my office, under my skin again, I didn't know what victory even meant. The next few weeks blurred into something dangerous. We played our roles by day, CEO and PR consultant. By night, enemies in love or lovers at war. The walls of my penthouse became a confessional, filled with whispered apologies and lies we didn't mean. But cracks began to show. One night, after a late strategy session, I noticed her phone buzzing. The name flashing on the screen made my chest tighten. A man's name. Not a business contact. Someone close, someone new. She reached for it quickly, too quickly. "Work call," she said, avoiding my eyes. I nodded, but inside something went cold. Later that night, as she showered, I checked her messages. What I saw twisted everything I thought I knew. "He still doesn't suspect anything. Keep him close. The investors will bite if he trusts you." It felt like being punched in the gut by the same hand you once held for comfort. I stared at the messages, the steam from the shower fogging the glass door. My reflection looked older, colder, like a man realizing that revenge had come full circle. She wasn't back for love. She wasn't even back for closure. She was back for access. I closed her phone quietly and walked to the balcony. The city stretched before me, endless and cruel. The rain had started again, faint drops hitting the railing. She came out minutes later, towel wrapped around her, eyes soft with the kind of false tenderness that had fooled me before. "Why are you standing out here?" she asked. I turned to her slowly. "Just thinking about how people change," she smiled. "You're not still angry, are you?" "No," I said, "not at all." That night I held her like a man memorizing a thief. Every breath, every curve, every lie. And in the morning, while she slept, I made a call to my assistant, to my legal team, to the investors she thought she could reach through me. By noon, every deal she'd been trying to leverage was locked. Every opportunity vanished. Her access revoked, her game exposed. But I didn't confront her, not yet. I wanted her to feel the silence first, the way I once did. Because sometimes revenge doesn't need fire, it just needs patience. I've learned that silence can be louder than a slap. It cuts slower, deeper, like invisible glass sliding under the skin. That's what I gave her, silence. For days I watched her crumble under it. At first, she didn't notice. She came to work smiling, confident, her perfume still filling the air before every meeting. She spoke like a woman who knew her place in my life was secure. But then slowly, she began to feel it. The missed calls, the unread messages, the way I stopped looking at her when she spoke. She tried to laugh it off, but her voice trembled each time my eyes passed through her like smoke. I didn't need to confront her. I'd already won. The investors she'd charmed turned cold. Her proposals vanished from the project files. Her name quietly disappeared from upcoming campaigns. Every door she'd tried to open with deceit now closed in her face. By the end of the week, she stood outside my office, her hands clenched around a folder she no longer had the confidence to deliver. Tunda, can we talk? I looked up slowly. About what? You've been distant. I've been busy. She swallowed hard. Did I do something? I leaned back in my chair, watching her eyes flicker with panic. You tell me. Her mask cracked. For the first time, I saw fear where arrogance used to live. She closed the door behind her. If this is about work, we can fix it. This isn't about work, I said quietly. It's about truth. She froze. I opened my phone, scrolled, then handed it to her. The messages, her plan, her betrayal. Color drained from her face. She stared at the screen, her breath quick and shallow. Tunda, I can explain. No, I said calmly, you can't, because you knew exactly what you were doing. Tears gathered in her eyes, but I felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, just a hollow kind of peace. She tried to step closer. It wasn't what it looked like. I needed help. I thought, stop. My voice was quiet, almost kind. Don't lie again. You're better at pretending than explaining. Her lips trembled. So that's it? You'll just destroy me? I smiled faintly. No, I won't need to. You'll do that yourself. Her face crumpled. You used to love me. I still do, I said softly. Just differently now. She stood there, shaking, a woman stripped of her last illusion of power. Then she turned and left. No slamming doors, no shouting, just the sound of her heels fading down the hallway. That night, I sat alone in my penthouse, city lights reflecting off the glass walls. The silence felt heavy. Not triumphant, not even peaceful, just empty. Revenge had given me everything I wanted, except meaning, because when the person who hurt you finally falls, you realize you're still holding the knife. Weeks passed. I buried myself in work, in deals, in luxury. The world saw a man who had everything. Cars, power, success. But every time I passed by the cafe we once sat in, or smelled her perfume in an elevator, something twisted inside me. One night I saw her again. Not in person, on TV. A lifestyle interview, small channel. She was talking about rebuilding, her smile smaller, her voice quieter. She spoke about failure like it was a disease she'd learned to survive. For the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt human again. Maybe we were both victims, of pride, of need, of trying too hard to be more than what we were. That night, I drove through the city. The rain came down heavy, washing the streets clean, or pretending to. I parked outside the cafe we'd once gone to. Same smell of roasted coffee, same flicker of neon lights through wet glass. I ordered 2 cups, black coffee, no sugar. The way we used to drink it when we couldn't afford cream. 1 cup stayed untouched. I sat there for hours, watching the rain hit the window until the lights dimmed and the world went quiet. That's when I realized the truth. She wasn't my lesson, I was hers. Because love isn't lost when someone leaves you broke. It's lost when you let pride become more important than forgiveness. And though I'd built an empire from pain, though I'd learned how to turn heartbreak into fuel, I couldn't buy back peace. When I finally stood to leave, I looked at the untouched coffee one last time. The steam had faded, just like everything else between us. I whispered to no one, "Thank you for leaving." Outside, the night was quiet again, and for the first time in years, so was I.